Hi, my name is McKenna, and my advocate's topic is the negative effect that social media has on our interpersonal relationships. My advocate's proposition is that social media is a contributing factor to the weakening of our communication skills in the interpersonal relationships we have. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons as to how the advocate failed to prove her proposition to be true. First of all, there is no evidence to support the claim that our communication skills are weakening. Second, this claim is too general because not all aspects of our communication skills are being weakened by social media, and in some aspects we are communicating more and better because of social media. For instance, Grub With Us is an app used to turn virtual relationships into interpersonal ones. It's just like a dating app, but you're there to meet friends, and your purpose is to meet friends and then go out to eat. So literally making an interpersonal relationship out of a virtual one. And lastly, we have different types of interpersonal relationships. For example, friendship, love, platonic, family, professional, and these are all affected by social media in different ways. For example, LinkedIn is used to build a professional network. Twitter is one of the best ways to reach out to companies. Dating sites, you're going to meet people that you've never had the chance to meet in real life. And Facebook is used to maintain friendships with friends and family, regardless of any distance. Fatima Zakaria is the editor of the Mumbai Times, and she stated that using something like Skype brings people closer when they can't always physically see each other. And texting people through Facebook or any texting platform allows us to be in contact with anyone from anywhere in the world, no matter how far away they are from us at any point in time. Her supporting claims, first of all, that social networking sites are influencing what we think about ourselves and others. This claim does not support the proposition because the advocate does not state whether the influence of social network is positive or negative. The advocate claims that we are only showing our best qualities or emotions, which is painting a false picture of what our lives might entail daily. This claim does not support the argument because she uses the term we. So if you are staying authentic to yourself and truly posting what is happening in your life, and not just your best qualities or emotions, then you are not painting a false picture over your life. And whom you choose to interact with, all on social media, plays a huge part in what influences you and how you think about yourself and others. The Institute of Cyberpsychology and Behavior commented on the higher negative impact, of self-esteem when you include strangers in online social networks. So you're more likely to have lower self-esteem if you include celebrities or sports players, writers, people who you don't have an interpersonal relationship with and just choose to follow on social media because they're interesting or you want to follow them. Her second claim, that communicators generally express more emotion online than they do in person. This claim is too broad in that we are capable of expressing emotion in a number of different ways, but only capable of expressing a limited amount via social media. For instance, body language, emphasizing certain parts of your oral speech, or seeing live reactions doesn't happen on social media unless you're watching a live video streaming. And lastly, her claim, the internet has made friendships more complicated. Our use of the internet can either help or hurt your relationships if you fall into the trap of social media, but it is completely dependent on you and your personal individual usage of it. Social media has the ability to make friendships more complicated, but only if you choose to let them affect you in a complicated way. She states it is hard to decipher who is a true friend, and that is completely dependent on what you qualify as a true friend, and friendships are only based on our interactions via social media. So you can decipher a true friend using many other forms of communication or reasoning processes. She also states that some friends you will never see again in your lifetime, to which that is one of the main points of social media, is to connect with friends and family or meet people whom you've never had the chance to meet in real life. And lastly, that people are more focused on the number of friends they have on social media versus the number of true, genuine friends they have. And again, this is too general of a claim in that it is completely dependent on the person, and not all people base how many friends they have on social media, not all people base how many friends they have by how many friends they have on social media. The Pew Research Center stated that having a higher number of friends on Facebook is significantly predicted higher perceived social support, reduced stress, and increased overall well-being. In conclusion, the advocate failed to prove that social media is a contributing factor to the weakening of our communication skills in the interpersonal relationships we have, because first, there is no evidence to prove that our communication skills are weakening. Second, it is too general of a statement to make that our communication skills are weakening because social media has been proven to both positively and negatively affect our interpersonal relationships. And lastly, because we have a wide range of interpersonal relationships, and social media affects them in both positive and negative ways.
All right, well, you kind of start off with three responses to address the advocate's general claim that you're going to develop on your own, and that's okay, although it might be more useful if you applied them in the particular points that the advocate's arguments are on, but I can see sort of how you were explaining your position. The notion that there's no evidence, that's fine. For example, one of the things that you might point out is that there wasn't any statistic provided that shows how we measure our communication with other people. That the absence of any way to measure these things means that we only have a generalization that the advocate's making based on perhaps their own experience as a way of making this inference, and that's not necessarily typical. I think that might be a little bit more analytical of the way the advocate is reasoning here. You do suggest that some of the points are too general there, and I thought that was okay. You have an example that kind of suggests how, in fact, some social media apps create relationships. I thought that was pretty good. And then you talk about how there are different types of relationships in different kinds of media. That's also okay, but it's as generic as what the advocate's talking about when you talk about the different platforms that exist for doing those things. You don't provide us with any comparative data either. For example, has LinkedIn resulted in easier access to jobs and professional relationships? Have the dating sites produced a greater number of marriages or satisfactory romantic relationships, that sort of thing? It's very hypothetical at this particular point. So the advocate is guilty of not necessarily providing evidence to support their position, and I think you kind of have some of the same issues on this particular point. I did like the one example that you had about the, what's the name of it? Grub with us or grow with us or grub with us. Okay, I think that's a good example, but I don't know how many people are actually using that, and that would be a piece of data that you could say, for example, here's a single site that I found that 150,000 people use, that they now have friends that they wouldn't have had otherwise in the real world. What does the advocate provide for you for evidence? Nothing. So at least I've got one example where we show that this is going on, and I think that would make your argument stronger if you can do more of the contrasting sort of thing. All right, and then the supporting points, when you get to the supporting points of the advocate's position, you just have some good general criticisms. I think sometimes you have a legitimate point to say that the advocate is using the royal we as a collective statement without necessarily offering particular proof, and that it's really particular to the individual as to what the outcome is going to be on any of these relationships. Well, this would be a good place to have some examples or, again, some counter evidence to demonstrate that. I thought that at the end you had one piece of information from the Pew Research Group that suggests that people do get satisfaction out of their social media relationships. I just think you needed more of that kind of information in the supporting structures as you're responding to them. I do think that there is this question about what constitutes a true friend, and the notion that you're only a true friend if somebody interacts with you in reality, that you share a meal with them, that they lend you money or come to your wedding or any of those sorts of things. That might not necessarily meet some people's needs. A lot of people have other kinds of needs, and the notion that true friendships can be established online is virtually ignored. That's a little pun, it's virtually ignored by the advocate in their presentation. I think that again, this would be one of those places where it wouldn't be hard to find examples of people. I did like the quote that you had about Skyping right before you got to the points that they had. This is, look, we're able to do all these sorts of things with technology. And that's the kind of stuff. What did the advocate offer? Nothing. I've got an example here. Here's a particular media platform that has produced these particular results. At the end, when we look at Facebook, we see that people generally, if they have more friends, they have better outcomes here. And let's contrast that to what the advocate said, and I think you can see that they have failed to prove their particular point. All right, thank you.